Hi everyone, it's Monica, and welcome back to Tailor-Made Cards for You. Well, today I'm going to be sharing with you my Gone Fishing Passport Kit. And if you've been following me over the last several months, you've seen that I've been releasing several passport kits. And essentially what a passport kit is a 3-page card that typically has a pocket inside where you can add fun ephemera. I also like to add little tucks where I can stick my ephemera on each page. But certainly there's so many possibilities even above and beyond the passport card. And I'm going to be sharing some of those with you at the end of the video. So make sure that you stick around. Now, I have a wonderful design team that uses my kits, and they are fabulous. I typically try to do my traditional passport kit because I know a lot of you like to go ahead and create these cards. So I want to make sure that you have a good idea on how they go together. Now, my kits come in 4 pages, so you're going to get lots of paper to work with. And like I said, these are theme pages, so there's lots of elements that you can use to create not only the card, but other projects as well. Now, what's great about these kits is, of course, they are digital, so you can print these over and over again, and your projects will be endless. Now, when I start out, I typically like to print all 4 of my pages, and then I'll trim everything down to size so that way I have everything right at my fingertips. 3 of the pages come cut out pretty easily. The ephemera may take you a little bit of time because you've got several pieces of ephemera and they're all different sizes. But honestly, the ephemera is my favorite part. I really do my best to create fun pieces that will coordinate well with your kits. Now, I am a vintage inspired crafter, so a lot of my ephemera and my pieces are vintage inspired. So hopefully you love that type of style as well, and you'll check out the kit at the end of the video. Now, when I create this kit, I size down the paper perfectly to make the passport cards. And the base of the card that you're going to be using for this particular card is this piece that I'm showing you here. Now, you're going to want to go ahead and put it on a scoreboard, and you're going to score it at 2 3/4. And you're going to go all the way down. Now, you want your paper to be facing down because you're going to want this little fishing basket to be the fold over. And then once you score it all the way down, you want to go ahead and rotate it to your right. And then you're going to do another score at about 3 1/2. But you're going to only score to the first score line. And then you're going to take the second piece of paper that I'm showing you here, and you're going to score it on the left-hand side at about 1/2 inch. So once you have your scoring all done, you want to go ahead and take your first piece and go ahead and cut out the top piece that you had scored, just as I'm doing here. And this is going to help create your layers. Now, I like to round my corners. So at this point, I'll go ahead and get out this heavy-duty chomper, and I will round all of my corners. The only corner that I don't round is where that fold is, and that's at the bottom middle, because I want to keep that straight. And as you can see, that second piece of cardstock that you scored fits perfectly as your second page. All right, so once you have all of the scoring done, you want to go ahead and start covering the white space. Now, you should have enough cardstock in this kit to cover all of the white space, but certainly feel free to use some of your own cardstock if you have some that would coordinate well. So for my back panel, I'm going to go ahead and use this cardstock that kind of looks like old wood fence. And you're going to want to go ahead and trim it down. Now, I like to use my card to figure out exactly how much I need to cut down. So just go ahead and measure the paper up against your card to figure out exactly what you're going to need for your trimming. And then you want to cut it just a little bit smaller. I like there to be some white space, but certainly not a lot. So just trim it down to have a little bit of white space. Now, before you actually adhere that wood panel, you want to go ahead and add your pocket. So I'm just kind of figuring out here exactly what ephemera I'm going to be using to cover my white space, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to use for my pocket. Now, you might have seen that I went ahead and I adhered my second page by adding some adhesive on that 1/2 inch score line, and then just butting it up in the middle where that crease is to add my second page. All right, so once I had an idea of what ephemera I was going to be using on what page, I went ahead and started to create my pocket. Now the pocket is going to be about 2 inches tall. And then you're going to want to trim it down to fit that panel perfectly, which I'm showing you here. Now, I like to use really strong adhesive when I'm creating pockets because keep in mind you're going to have ephemera being pulled in and out, and you want to make sure that your pocket doesn't tear or come up. And I use this really thin Redline tape that seems to work pretty well. So I went ahead and I added the Redline tape to the left and the right side, and then again on the bottom. And then I went ahead and I added it to my panel. Now, if you're going to round your corners, which is typically what I'll do, is I'll round them before I actually add it to the back panel, because keep in mind your cardstock is going to be a little bit smaller than the card. So if you wait to actually try to trim the corner after you adhere it, you may not be able to. So go ahead and add your pocket, and then go ahead and you want to round the top left, the top right, and then the bottom right, and that should also have your pocket. Now, another thing that I like to do to help secure that pocket is to add a little bit of designer tape or some washi tape. And I had some of this fish washi tape that worked perfect for the theme. So I went ahead and just cut off a piece, and it goes on the top of the pocket, and then it wraps around the corners, and that will just help to secure it just a little bit more. Now, also, before you start adhering your paperwork or your ephemera, you can also take some of your walnut stain or your any of your distress inks that are like a brown tone, and you can edge off the corners. I didn't do it on this piece, but ordinarily I do. And this is just a nice finish. And then you're ready to go ahead and start decorating the other white portions of your card. Now, as you can see, I'm not really fancy here. All I do is I just take my card and I measure it up against the panel that I want to cover, and then I trim it. And typically, it's a little bit bigger because I've traced over it exactly, but you want it to be just a little bit smaller than your page that you're going to be covering, and then that way you'll make sure that your card pages will close easily. And then, as you can see here, I did take that walnut stain and I distressed up the edges. Now, don't forget, you're going to want to round your corners before you adhere your cardstock, so just keep that in mind as well. Now, keep in mind, this is just one way to decorate your white panels. With the paper that you get in this kit, there's a lot of directions that you can go. I chose to use the wood planks on my back panel, but you could certainly have used those on the smaller fold if that's the way you decided to go. And of course, because it is a digital set, you can print out as many as you want. So perhaps you wanted your panels to match rather than be different. So keep in mind, there's a lot of ways you can go. You don't necessarily have to follow my approach. Now, one thing I really like about this kit is there are some words that you can cut down to create sentiments. And that's what I did with this piece of ephemera right here. I was able to cut it down to use portions of the wording to create sentiments on my actual passport card. And then I took some of the leftovers and I was able to just cut it down to create a whole new ephemera piece. So be creative. Don't be afraid to kind of look at your pieces non-traditionally to see what else you can do with them. Now, like I said, I did size some of this ephemera to fit perfectly on the flaps. And a couple of these pieces here work really great. All you need to do is maybe add a little bit of cardstock on the background, but sometimes you don't even need to do that. So on this particular piece of ephemera, I was able to just trim a little bit off of the top and the sides, and it fit perfectly on my inside front panel. And then, of course, once you have all of the white that's showing covered, you can still add more layers. So you don't necessarily have to stop there. So don't be afraid to add some of that beautiful ephemera on top of some of your pages that you've covered. I just really think it adds to the interest of the whole design, but certainly do what you feel comfortable with. If you just love some of the graphics, and there are some great graphics, if you just love them and you don't want to cover them up, by no means don't do that. You can easily add some of the extra ephemera inside of that cute little pocket that I created, or even create some text so you can add them to the other pages without having to commit to adhering them to those beautiful pages. Now, like I said, at the end of the video, I am going to be adding some of the pictures of the projects that my design team made. And they're really creative. They create anything from little booklets to tags. And they really are creative when they come to these sets. So if you do need a little bit more inspiration, don't forget to stick around to the end of the video so you can see some of those designs. And I will also have these designs also over on my blog, tailormadecardsforyou.com, along with their links, so you can check out some of the details to their projects. So as always, I'll leave a list of all the products that I've used to create this cute little passport card, along with the links to the stores. I'll also make sure that I leave a link to this set in case you want to check it out. And if you've enjoyed my video, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up. Also, leave me a comment. Let me know what you've thought of this kit. I have created several kits over the last several months, and be curious to know which set so far has been your favorite. Now, next month we have something special. We're going to have a blog hop with the design team, because this is going to be the last month for them to actually be designing on the team before we take a couple of months break. So we're going to have a blog hop, and we're going to be featuring some fun passport cards, which are travel themed. So I think you'll get a kick out of them. So if you aren't a subscriber to the channel yet, this will be a good time for you to hit that subscribe button. All right, everybody, thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll see you again next time.